Well, to start with, I'm not going to say that dubbed anime is the only way to watch a show and be able to enjoy it, because that just simply isn't true. But by overwhelming preference, I will say without a doubt or hesitation that given the choice between the two, if a dub exists for the show I'm wanting to watch, that's the version I'm going to be watching it in. Now, this discussion or debate or whatever you want to call it about which is better, sub versus dub, has been going on for basically ever. But to me, the answer is quite simple. I'm going to explain in great detail my stance and reasoning on the matter, which, as stated and as the title for this, is obviously that I believe a dub to be best for anime in particular. And if I still have your attention at this point and you're still with me, I'm going to assume that either A, you agree with me that dubbing is a fantastic way to be able to enjoy the medium, or B, you're on the opposite side of the spectrum, disagree with what I'm saying. But if you're still with me, you're likely just curious how I could possibly think this way, and will think I'm wrong regardless of what I'm about to say, but I'll leave that discussion until the end. Now that that's all taken care of and out of the way, time to get down to business. Why is dubbed anime the best anime? Well, number one is easy. I like being able to directly hear and understand what's being spoken throughout a show without the requirement of needing a translator. In this case, the translator being built into the show as subtitles needing to be read. To me, I think that the extra step can take a bit away from the immersive feeling of being a part of the world the anime is creating, opposed to just observing it from a distance. Obviously, the extent of this can vary drastically depending on the particular genre of the series, but as a general rule, for those shows that I enjoy watching the most, which I won't get into here, another video perhaps for continuation later on, but being able to have that feeling of really being inside the world of a show is huge. And some of that is getting lost with that language barrier feeling, I suppose, in many cases. Now, the second reason, and this one's a pretty big one, I think, and it ties a bit into the first one, but let me also say this to explain this as well. The more I've watched and developed culturally, I'll say, anime is far more than just a show to watch and have the story to enjoy. Sure, I mean that's a part of it. I mean, but anime, it's an art form. It's art in and of itself, and is a beautifully crafted and can be a sure wonder to behold, to just look at. Now, the logical question I pose, serving as my second reason, is that if you're watching a show subbed and constantly looking at those subtitles to understand everything that's going on, how can you really take in and really grasp all the art? I say you really can't. You can very easily miss out on some of the cool details that find their way in the show through the art. Even though the distraction of subs to look at is hard to be able to, or even without, sorry, the distraction of all the subs looking at, it's hard to see all the details within a given scene anyway. But it certainly isn't going to keep anyone from trying to appreciate as much of it as possible while it's on the screen to be seen. Now, another reason, the third reason, and while this one may be a matter of the sheer quantity of watching of one as compared to the other, but it's going to be one of my reasons anyway, and that's the matter of the voice actors. It's much easier to keep track of characters' voices when I'm able to understand the language of the words spoken, and because I know English and that's what I'm used to, it's easier to distinguish between characters. Again, that might just be my preference and what I'm used to. But a tie into all that as well, and I'll add this to the point, as though it's also kind of a tangent all of its own, but I find that in most cases, when I watch a show, the voice actor for a character really becomes that character. I mean, that's obviously by design, but what I mean by that is that the voice fits perfectly for the character that's being voiced so well that they become one and the same, meaning I can't imagine the character really having any other voice, and anything different just feels kind of off or wrong. I don't believe that either of those cases are cause for ruining it, of course, but I mean, you can get used to something a little different given, some time. I'll give an example of this. A case that I'm very familiar with is that of Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist. The voice being, different between the original and the Brotherhood version. Something I immediately noticed watching Brotherhood and watching it, but nothing really takes away from how good Brotherhood is, obviously. But that's just one example. Finally, reasoning-ish number 4, I guess I'll say. I've been rambling on for quite some time at this point, and I feel like hope I've explained fairly well, at least for the most part, the specifics of what I was wanting to go into. But there are for sure a few other little tidbits I'll try and just put together now to try and wrap things up a bit. But one of those being really the relatability and connection with the character. It's much easier to do when you can actually directly understand whatever's being spoken, being said. And for that, it's going to be a lot more enjoyable, really, overall. It lessens confusions and whatever might be going on. An anime can be really weird sometimes, and I can very much so enjoy the quirkiness of that. Sometimes that can be one of the big appeals of a show in particular, but throwing in a language that you're not understanding, hearing into that mix just adds to it, and that complication is avoided by dubbing. Phew, man, oh man. At this point, I've just been going through my script, and to be perfectly honest, I've not known just quite how long this is gonna end up being until I've actually, been going through it now, recording everything. So I'll finish here with just a couple of closing thoughts. That although this is my stance on the matter, and it does unfortunately have its downsides, despite how I feel about it. The biggest of which being that not every show has a dub, which even if you know a dub is coming, having to wait for it can be a little frustrating, but especially for those really hyped shows of each season, ones you really want to watch. But that's the choice that has to be made. Either wait for the dub to be available to get and be able to get the most enjoyment out of your show the first time you go through it, or you give in to that just pressure of wanting to watch it so bad you just have to watch the sub of it if it, once it's out. Neither of those choices are wrong, but of course, dubbed anime is the best anime. I just wanted to say a final thank you guys so much for all those. If you've made it this far, it is a big awesomeness, and it made it all worth it. I hopefully look forward to doing more and continuing.